Be good. All right. So we're doing non-right triangles. So there's not gonna be any more Pythagorean theorem. All the sides will have to be found using this formula. That's basically the same formula, but I put it in two forms. If you're looking for a side, use number 2. It's easier to use. It saves you like one step. You can use either one, doesn't matter. But if you're looking for a side, use number 2 because it'll save you one algebra step. If you're solving for an angle, use number 1. Okay. Just remember these ratios are assuming this kind of setup. So it does not matter where the angles go, but once the angles are chosen, what's opposite to those angles has to be the lowercase letter. That makes sense. So if you put capital A here, lowercase a has to be there. If you put C up here, lowercase is down here. Okay, that makes sense. So if you make your own, I guess if you're doing the homework and they have different letters, I think they may use alpha, beta, gamma. So if they do, just put the lowercase opposite to beta, lowercase opposite to alpha. I just think capital is a little more obvious, but whatever. It's all the same. But anyway, they call them oblique triangles, so basically non-right triangles. You can use law of sines to solve any side at any angle. So in the next exam, most of the questions are going to be, here's a triangle, solve all the sides, solve all the angles. Okay. Depending on what you're given, the question may work out differently. There are 4 cases to solving a triangle. Case 1 and case 2 are the ones you want to use law of sine for. Okay. If you have one side and 2 angles, you're going to have angle, side angle, or side angle, angle. Okay. Let me make a note right here. If you are solving for an angle, use number 1. If you are solving a side, use number 2. Okay. Anyway, if you have 2 sides and 1 angle, but that angle is opposite to one of those sides, then that's case 2. Okay. So as long as you have one of these scenarios, you are able to use law of sine. If you don't have one of those two, you're going to have to do law of cosine, which is 8.2, I think, or 8.3. So you can't use law of sine. You must have an opposite side to a given angle. So case 3 is where you have 2 sides, but the angle is not opposite to any of those sides, and you're just out of luck. Okay, you cannot do it. They call this side angle side, where the angle is in between the sides, but not opposite to it. Okay. Side angle is case 2. Try my best not to spell strange words there. Case 4, if you only have sides, but no angles. So all these 2 right here are for law of cosine. Okay. I know I'll wait a bit here. You guys cool on this part here? Yeah, I'm gonna scoot it up then just a little bit. This chapter is a lot easier. There's no more proofs. At least not till the final. Okay. Most people do a lot better in this chapter. I haven't graded your stuff, but it usually goes badly. On average, people do better here. Chapter 8. Chapter 8. I'll wait a little bit longer. We'll start example 1. Looks like we're gonna hit 40s on Wednesday. Surprising. Yeah. Yeah, looks like fall's finally here, huh? Finally. You guys cool on page 1? Um, I guess a quick note before we start. If you are given 2 angles, then you only have 1 triangle. So in a moment, what we're gonna do every single time is verify if we have 1 or 2 triangles. Sometimes you may have none. That happens. Okay. When you have 2, life sucks. It's not easy. But so you want the best case is when you have none, because you just stop. You say no triangle, move on. If you have 1, well, you're gonna do what we're gonna do here in just a second. Okay, so example 1. All I'm gonna ask you to do is solve the triangle on the exams. That's it. In the book, this is called an AAS. Okay. So they technically gave us a picture. Let me attempt to draw this. No promises. So A is right here. B is there. C is here. So 10 is there. This angle is 30 degrees. This angle is 50. Okay. So the way I want you to start is just somewhere on the side or on the bottom. Just write what all the angles are, the ones that you have, and all the sides. Okay. So we have angle A, which is 50, angle C, which is 30. Now, what is side A? Yeah, so it has to be opposite to capital, right? So it's understood to be over here. So make sure you're able to find it because the book doesn't tell you what's what. You need to label it yourself. I think that is all they gave us. Yeah, that's all we got. So what's the easiest thing we can do here before we get into the law of science? What can you find? No problem. Yeah, we should be able to find that capital B, right? We've done that many times. So let's do step one here. Find B. So B is simply 180 minus the other two angles, which is 100, right? Okay. So now we got to find the sides, but that requires law of sines. We can't do Pythagorean, so don't even think about that anymore, unless you have a right track. Okay, but none of these will be right track. I know one of you is going to try to do the next test, even though I told you not to, but please don't, please. Step two, let's find, I don't know, little b, I guess. So set up the law of sines. The way I want you to do it, well, what I recommend is write the one that you're trying to find first. So b over sine b, and then set it equal to any of the other ratios. But choose the one that has both parts, the angle and the side. So I'm going to choose the a and the sine a because I have both of them. You don't want to choose something that creates more unknowns. You need to have only one unknown once you set it up. If you have two, then you can't do anything. Okay. So solve for b, and then just plug everything in. You could plug it in now if you want, but I like doing it at the end just because it's a little neater. Do it however you want. Just do legit math, and you'll be fine. So both sides times sine b. These are gone, right? So b is equal to a sine b over sine a. So plug it all in. A is 10. Sine of b is a sine of 100 over sine 50. So you're gonna need a scientific calculator for this chapter. If you have one, just pull it out and figure out what this is. If your calculator doesn't have a fraction button, just do parentheses for the top part, it's divided by the bottom part, and it'll never come out wrong. Use your parentheses accordingly. All right. This is what I'm saying. If you have like a crappy calculator, put 10, sine 100. That's the top, divided by the bottom. If you always do it this way, you will never make a mistake. Okay. So 12.9. If you have one of these, you should have a fraction button by pressing alpha y equals, and you can just put the top part and the bottom part. Whatever, right? However you want to do it. So that's going to be 12.9, right? 9. Any questions on this algebra here? Is that okay? Just plug all the stuff you know. That's it. So we got, I'm going to go ahead and box the stuff we solved for, so I know later what was given, what wasn't. All right. B. Now we need C. Okay. You guys cool on step 2? So do the same thing for C. So set C over sine C equal to, I recommend you use the one that you're given, set it equal to that ratio. You could use the other one now that we have it, right? Doesn't matter. But this has more accuracy because it wasn't rounded. It would matter if we're making spaceships, but we're not. So we might be off by maybe some rounding error. That doesn't matter. But if you're curious if the back of the book answer doesn't match up or it's off by a little bit, it's because you rounded too much. Okay, that's all. All right, so here we go. I chose to set this ratio equal to that ratio. So that formula I gave you at the beginning lets you choose whatever. You can set them equal to whatever you want. Does that make sense? It's up to you, and it could be just gotta be the same side. Either they're the sides on top or the sides on top. Okay, don't miss and match that. Solve for C. Multiply both sides by sine C. So C is equal to A sine C over sine A. Okay. Let's plug it all in and we're good. We'll have C. That will be 10 sine 30 over sine 50. I don't know what that is. It'll be 10 sine 30 over sine 50. So it looks like 6.5. So we found all the sides. Any questions on solving for the sides? So we have only one triangle because we started with 2 angles. If you start with only 1 angle, then the question's a little harder. We'll do that on the next one. Any question on these steps? Yeah, so I was saying earlier, you can, but you may introduce a rounding error. So it might be off by a little bit, or it might be off like in the 10,000th place. But yes, you can. Let me do the easy one first, because in my last class, the book gave me an example for number 2, and it was just like super hard. I mean, it jumps from this to like something crazy. I thought that was uncool.
There's usually a tendency for that.
Yeah, that's true. But I feel like you should have a couple of somewhat chill problems before it gets crazy. Sometimes it doesn't happen, I guess. You guys cool on this page? All right. Let me pick the easy one first. So I don't F it up like last time. Example 3. Solve the SSA. All right. These are not drawn to scale, obviously. Okay. I'm going to put my angles over here. And sides over here. They only gave us one angle. So we must check to see if the triangle exists or if there's more than one or if there's just one. So we're given the angle 85 for C. What is side B, little b? Yeah, it's going to be 9 and little c, 12. We'll have no other angles, right? So that means we have that scenario. And I do have a pair, which allows me to do law of sines. So if you don't have like a capital and a lowercase, you can't do law of sines. That's case 3. Okay. So let's try to find capital B, because once I find that guy, then I have another pair. And I could find A, just by subtracting from 180. So step 1, let's solve for capital B. Once we find it, remember in the last test, right, when you were solving for those equations, sometimes you get technically 2 solutions, right? 2 angles. So that's still going to happen here. So we got to check if those 2 angles are, if they both work, if they're both solutions. That's when the 2 triangles appear. So let me show you in just a moment. So set this one we're trying to find, equal to the one that's complete. Oh, sorry. Plug that in a minute. Okay, multiply both sides by lowercase b. And that will isolate sine. So how do you solve for b, capital B? Do you remember how to get rid of sine? Yeah, we're gonna have to do the inverse of both sides. Okay, so we're gonna introduce that inverse, and then once that happens, we'll plug in all these weirdo numbers. So sine inverse of both sides. And this is when you get those 2 angles. Does that make sense? So that means these will cancel, giving me b. So b is equal to sine inverse of b sine c over little c, which is sine inverse of b is 9, sine of 85 over 12. So this will give me an angle. What is that angle? Looks like 48.3. I recommend for this entire chapter to use degrees. You don't have to, but it's a little easier to deal with. It's up to you though. The homework in the book, I think, is gonna have examples in degrees. All right. So there's B. Do you remember how you find the other one? Yeah, so we're going to call the other possibility beta prime. So beta prime is 180 minus 48.3. So we need to verify, does this work? So we have two possible B's. Step 2, verify that B plus the given angle that we had, C, is less than 180, and beta prime plus C is less than 180. If both are less than 180, then both can be used. So that creates the two triangle problem. If one of them fails, then you only have one triangle. Does that make sense? So we found this one and we found this one. So add it to the one that you started with and see if you're good. Okay. So B plus C is equal to, what is it? 48.3 plus 85. That is indeed less than 180, right? We're good. I wrote that out stupid. Okay, is beta prime plus C less than 180? No, right? 48 plus 130, I don't know what it is, but more than 180, so no. This tells us that we have one triangle. This is how you check. So just remember, whenever you only have one triangle, or sorry, when you're given only one angle in your problem, you got to check. Okay. If you're given two angles, then who cares? You just solve it. Don't even think about it. If you get an error when you're solving for this right here, there would be no triangle. So you would just stop right away. Okay. So we checked and we got one, so it's going to be exactly like the last example. Yeah. All right. This one was the wrong one right here. I added the wrong two numbers, didn't I? It should be 131 is beta prime plus 85, which was C. Clearly bigger than 180, right? Any questions on how you check? Because once you check, this is just a side thing to get back to solving for ABC. I don't know. I'll wait a bit. Figure that out later. Okay. And any other questions on that? Is that okay, or is it weird? I feel like this part's a little strange. Okay. That's cool on this page then. All right, well, we got B, so we should go ahead and write it down. We can find A, no problem. Let's do that on the next page. Or do I have space there? Yeah. Solve for A. A will equal 180 minus 85 minus 48.3. Okay. So A is 46.7. Okay. We'll go write that down in a second. Step 4. The last missing piece is side A. So we use this guy, sine A, or A over sine A, set equal to the one that had both from the beginning, C over sine C. Solve for A. I'm going to skip the step now. You'll get straight to here. Multiply both sides by sine A. Plug in everything. That'll be 12 sine 85 over sine. Yeah, this is 85. Sorry, guys, I'm getting hungry. Okay. 46.7. So just punch it in, see what we get. Eight point eight. So this is roughly 8.8. All right, I'm gonna go write them down in the front. 8.8 and 46.7. So we solve for this one, this one, this one. Right. Okay. So now let's do the one that really sucks. Example 2. This one will have two triangles. Let me find the book because they have pretty pictures. Okay, 8 point. Can't see that. Zoom out a little bit. Man, might be easier to put this guy over here. So I was trying something different. So it's a little strange. Okay, so in the book we use alpha, beta, gamma. So just keep, don't forget ABC. This is what I want you to see. Can you guys see this okay? This is the best it's gonna get. So sometimes when you're solving for a triangle, it doesn't close. It's not long enough, so it's just not gonna happen. That's when the calculator gives you the error. So it just never closes off. The right triangle, we've done a bunch of those already, so just move on. C is the one that sucks. So you have an angle that might go outward. See how it's coming out? The gamma right here. So when it comes out, uh, the base changes because now it's longer. See that? If the angle comes in, see where this is coming down there? Now this base has changed. But little b and angle A are not changing, right? They're kind of static. Everything else is changing. The side that's swinging in and out is also not changing, it's just changing position. So the ones that are going to change are this angle, and the base. Is that clear? So when you have two triangles, you're solving this inner triangle that goes this way, like that. This piece right here. After the dotted line, and then the angle, then the entire thing, right, would be the second triangle, the whole thing. Does that make sense? It's hard to visualize when we're doing it by hand, but that's what's happening. Okay. The ones we did was this one. We solved two that were one triangle. And it wasn't too bad, right? So far it's okay. This is the one that's hard to get the first time, so you may have to go over a couple times. Okay. Let's go ahead and do this, number 2. All right. I'm gonna need a new page. You cool on this side, on this page here? It's all right. All right. Example 2. Solve the triangle. This is a side angle type. Okay. Let me move this over here. So they gave us capital A in this example, and that was it for the angles. Lowercase a is 6, lowercase b is 8. That was it. That's all we got. So as long as we have a pair, we can continue with law of sines. If you don't have your pair, then you have to use something else. Okay. So we're going to find angle B, and once we do that, we're going to notice that both of them work. So that's when we have to solve two separate ones. So knowing that that's going to happen, I'm going to create my primes for the other triangle. They're not going to tell you, but I'm just telling you because I want to stay organized here. It's the only reason. Okay. And we said that the angle A is not going to change. And neither is this side. Angle B is the one that's going to have two possibilities. And so is angle C. Okay. We're given side B. That won't change. And this is the base. So depending on the B that comes in or out, the C's will change. So these two B's will affect the little C's. And of course, if you have a different B, when you subtract from 180, you'll get a different capital C, right? So let's write it all down. That's a lot to imagine, right? So let's solve for B. Okay. So set it up. Sine B over B equal to the one that's complete, the A. Yeah, crap. Okay. Yeah. Solve for B. I'm going to skip a minor step here. Is that okay? Multiply both sides by B, little b, get to here. Do sine inverse of both sides, that'll get us to here. Is there any questions on the algebra that I skipped? I'm gonna make this a little smaller. So try to fit it on. Sorry, 1 second. Okay. I'm just rewriting the same thing, a little smaller. B sine A over A, which will be 8 sine 35 over 6. $49.9. Yeah, I'll just write down here. There's capital B. Now find B prime. B prime would equal 180 minus that. Which will be 130.1. You guys still with me up to this point? I skipped a couple steps here to save space. All right. So now we have to check. Verify how many triangles you have. So in order to do so, just take the two B's and add them to the one that you're given. Given A, right? So is A plus B less than 180? And A plus B prime less than 180? That'll be 35 plus 49.9 and 35 plus 130. Do you see that they're both less than 180? Right, so we're gonna have to find two triangles. So yes, yes. This means we have two triangles. Right, so you have to check every time. Every time you're only given one angle, you gotta check. Okay. Step 3. Find C and C prime. Any questions so far? All right. These are easy to find, right? C is equal to 180 minus 35 minus 49.9. C prime would be equal to 180 minus 35 minus 130.1. I don't know what that is. I wrote it down earlier somewhere. Excuse me. 95.1 no. Yeah. And 14.9. Any questions so far? You guys doing good? Okay. Back to that in a second. So we found capital C, C prime, capital B, and B prime. I wrote them stupid. Oh, we're almost done, right? Just need little c and little c prime. See how it's the same thing over and over again. It just It can be tedious depending on the scenario. Yeah, of course. Good. Okay. The next page we'll solve for little c. Everyone cool on this page. All right, let's find little c's. Step 4. Find little c and little c prime. I'm gonna write the sides because my c's look the same. So here we go. C over sine C. Set that equal to the one that had both sides from the start. A over sine A. Solve for little c. That gives us A sine C over sine A, which is something. 6 times sine of 95.1 over sine 35. That's going to be 10.4, I think. Yeah. I skipped an algebra step here. Notice how everything will be the same for C prime, so just go ahead and use the same formula. C prime will be A prime sine C prime over sine A prime, which is 6 sine of 14.9 over sine 35.
Those Russians.
2.7. You see how when you have two triangles, life sucks, right? It's just it's way more tedious. And you got to remember which one's fixed and which one's not. You got to verify. So take your time, okay? That will be 10.4 and 2.7. Okay, there's only two triangles. The book has a nice picture of both of them. I'm not going to draw it. Any questions on any of these steps? Is it okay? much time we got left? Let's do one that has no triangle. Oh, that's just this. Example 4. So they give us capital A. Oh, no, they don't. I don't, they don't actually tell us anything. Let me see. Whatever. I'll call this 50. They give us lowercase a. Lowercase b. Yeah, okay. So when you try to solve for angle A, you're gonna end up with an error. When that happens, you just say no triangle. That's it. This is the best one. So set it up the way you would any other question. I want to find A, so put that on top. Over the little a, use the one that has both. Multiply both sides by A. That gets me to here. Sine inverse of both sides. So that would be A equal to sine inverse of A sine B over B, which will be sine inverse of 10 sine 50 over 4. This should give us an error, I hope. Yeah. Error in domain, and it should be obvious why. This is bigger than 1. Remember the requirement for sine inverse? It only takes values between -1 to 1. 10 divided by 4 is already too big, right? What is 10 divided by 4? Yeah, 2 point something. At sine 50, I doubt it's going to shrink it below 1, so that should have been a clue, right? 10/4. There is no triangle. So just stop. So it basically looks like this. It just stops. So there was no angle A or C because there was no triangle. Just kind of stayed open. Does that make sense? If it would have worked, we would have had to check if we had 2 triangles or 1, because we were only given one angle to start with. Okay. All right, guys, we'll stop here. If you have any questions, let me know. Let's stick around for a bit.